So, hello, my name is Randall. I work here at San Diego Mesa College Financial Aid Office. I'm going to go over what to do to file or to apply for financial aid, the FAFSA, and anything else that you might need. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to be going over college costs. I'm going to kind of look at some options in San Diego here. I'm going to explain what financial aid is and the different types. I'm going to tell you how to apply for financial aid and where to get more information, okay? So the first thing is, what does college cost? This is just annual tuition fees of the local options here. Like I said, we have a private college called USD, and for tuition fees, they're over $50,000. You have the UC system, and UCSD here in San Diego is over $13,000. And you have the CSU system, which would include San Diego State University, which is down to about $7,000. And then you have the community colleges in the San Diego Community College District, $1,142. So you can see that it's a lot more economical to take whatever classes you can here if you're going to plan on transferring to a 4-year. And then it's even going to be a little cheaper than that for California residents, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more later. So the first thing is kind of going over some acronyms that are used in the financial aid application. The COA, which stands for cost of attendance. So I just kind of put together some options here again to include tuition and fees, books and supplies, room and board, transportation, and personal expenses. Cost of attendance budgets are put together by every school individually across the country. These are just here, like it's the options I was showing you earlier. So you can see the biggest difference for us is the tuition and fees. These are the budgets for living off campus. You know, obviously the community college doesn't offer any on-campus housing, so we want to kind of make it apples to apples comparison here. Room and board is pretty much the same across the board. Transportation and personal expenses, we give you a little bit more leeway for personal expenses, I guess. But you can see the different costs per year. And that's the cost of attendance. How are you going to pay for this? Your first option will be family support. If you have parents, family, you know, if you're married, maybe they're going to help you pay for college. You could have worked throughout high school, maybe you put together some savings and you're going to use some of that to help pay. And then you might want to work a little bit part-time while you're going to school and help pay your fees that way. And then there's the financial aid, which includes the grants, scholarships, and loans. And I'm going to talk about those a little bit more in depth here too, okay? So financial aid, what is it? There's two different types of financial aid. There's need-based, which includes the grants. The federal grants is the Pell grant and the SEOG, which is a Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. There's state grant, the Cal grant, and then the full-time student success grant. There's Workstudy, scholarships, and if you need to take out a loan, there's loans. Then you have, and I'm going to explain all these in more detail. I'm just kind of breaking it down a little bit as we go. Non-need-based would be unsubsidized loans. There's a federal unsubsidized loan. If a parent wants to help you out and take out a loan, there's a Parent Plus loan. And then there's alternative loans, and they're called alternative loans because they're alternative to taking out a federal loan. So it would be not associated with the FAFSA and financial aid. It would be like through an education loan through your bank, or you know, there are different government agencies that offer education loans also. So the grants. Federal Pell Grant, that's the most popular one. You probably most well known. It's the biggest funded one. It's $5,815 maximum per year for this year, and starting next fall for the 17-18 school year, it goes up a little bit to $5,920. This is per year, so if you're going to be here in the fall and spring, that breaks down half and half for the fall, half for the spring. Okay, and again, it's based on full-time enrollment of 12 units. If you're enrolled less than 12 units, it will be prorated down based on 3/4 time or half time or less than half time. So then, you know, you wouldn't be getting the full amount. The Cal Grant, there's a couple different kinds of Cal Grant based on your program, whether you're getting an associate's degree or if you're getting a certificate or vocational degree. And then there's the Board of Governors fee waiver. So I told you earlier, California residents, If the admissions office has determined that you are a California resident, it's not the financial aid office that determines this, it's the admissions, you are awarded the Board of Governors fee waiver. Okay, that pays the tuition. So that 1,142 I showed you earlier goes down to like 40. You'd only have to pay $20 for the health services fee in the fall and $20 in the spring. Tuition's covered for California residents, okay? The Chafee grant for some foster youth, and then that supplemental grant that I was telling you about, those are a lot less funded, so they're really hard to get, but you may be eligible. Workstudy, there is a question on the FAFSA specifically asking if you're interested in work-study. You have to answer yes to that to be considered, okay? Doesn't mean you're going to get it because, again, this is federally funded, pays like 70% of the hourly rate or the hourly wage, and it's limited funds. Work-study earnings are paid directly to the student just like any other person that works at the college, so you get paid once a month with a paycheck with taxes taken out. You will submit your if it's this year, 2016 or 2017, for the next year, income tax return. The benefit of working in a work-study position is when you go to file for your FAFSA the following year, those earnings are taken out and they're not being taken into consideration in determining what you should have available for next year's education. The other good thing about the work-study is that it's on campus. They put your classes first versus some other job where you have to work your school schedule around your work schedule, okay? Okay, so how do I apply? The application is called the FAFSA. There's only one application. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The application deadlines for priority deadlines for, like I said, the work study, Cal Grants, things like that is March 2nd, okay? You want to apply for scholarships, you can search scholarships are on your own, not part of the FAFSA, not part of the financial aid award, and those are available just kind of wherever you can find them. We do have a resource in our student services building on the 4th floor, the Student Affairs office, okay? You start looking for those now because most of them have application deadlines in like March and April for the following year, okay? So for the fall of 17, you'd be getting them in right now. If you feel that you have any other types of special circumstances as you're going through the FAFSA and you think this doesn't apply or maybe something's a little different, you contact the financial aid office. We'll help you with what you want to put on there, okay? So this is what it looks like. It's, like I said, it's an electronic application. And again, it's free, so avoid being charged. You'll get some emails or some letters saying, hey, give me $50, give me $100. I can help you get more money, make sure you get everything you're eligible for, but nobody can actually get you more money than what is awarded by the school, okay? So make sure you go to this website, fafsa.ed.gov. If you go to fafsa.com, you'll go through the whole application process. It'll look exactly the same, but at the end they'll want $90 or $95 to submit it for you, and you don't need to do that, okay? Again, contact the financial aid office if you need help. We have computers, we have staff that can help, okay? The other thing is to make sure that you enter the school code. San Diego Mesa College, if that's the only school you're thinking about, and that's our school code. They do have an option to type in the school that you're looking for, but we've had students make the mistake of just entering Mesa College and then their information goes to Mesa, Arizona. And when they come to get their financial aid, they say they haven't been awarded, and we find out they sent it to the wrong school. So make sure that's the school code you're entering when you fill out your FAFSA, okay? If it's your first time that you're going to be filling out a FAFSA, the first thing you'll need to do is your FSA ID. It's what you, the student, and at least one of your parents is going to need in order to sign the FAFSA and to log into your FAFSA, okay? It's a little complicated, and there's a few screens, there's security questions, so I'd recommend, if you haven't done it already, take pictures with your phone of every screen before you submit it. I have worked with students who go through the whole process of setting up the ID, and then when it asks to log them in, they can't remember already. So it's a good idea to write everything down, take pictures before you submit every screen, okay? And again, both student and one parent will need to have the active email and the FSA ID to sign the FAFSA. And one of the other acronyms that we use is called EFC, which is the Expected Family Contribution. The EFC is actually kind of like the output from the FAFSA, okay? It's the answer that comes out of the formula. That's about a 10-page formula. It's the how much of the family's financial resources the Department of Ed determines should be available to help pay for the student's education. The EFC is the same. It's the only output from the FAFSA, so no matter how many schools or which schools you send it to, it's the same, okay? So the components that go into the EFC for a dependent student, parents' income and assets, students' income and assets, number in household, number in college, and state of legal residency. This is just kind of an abbreviated version. Like I said, the formula is a lot longer than just these components. So there's no like cutoff of like how much if my family earns this amount of money and we have this many students. There's no cutoff as far as income or anything. It goes through all this process. For an independent student, you just would not be including any parents' income or assets. So how the school determines the award? We take that cost of attendance budget, which I showed you is different for every school. We subtract the EFC, which is going to be the same at every school, and that equals the eligibility for the need-based financial aid, which I was talking about earlier, which would include the grants and scholarships and subsidized loan. Okay, again, the COA is different at each school, but the EFC stays the same, so the student's need will be different from school to school. Avoid errors filling out the FAFSA. It's only going to delay everything later on. So make sure you enter your name and social security number exactly how it is on your social security card. If my name is Randall, I'd put Randall. I wouldn't put Randy or any other nickname. Otherwise it won't match and it's going to cause another delay in your financial aid. The data retrieval tool for your parents and your tax and income information if you worked in the prior year. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the data retrieval tool is. It's going to help avoid errors because it's going to fill in your FAFSA directly from the IRS. If the entry is 0 or none, enter as 0. Don't leave it blank. It's going to ask if you, the student, plan on filing an income, if you did file an income tax return, if you plan on it. And if you don't answer it, or if you leave it blank for earnings, the Department of Ed might think that you just forgot to answer it, and then they'll ask you for your income tax return information, and then you'll say you don't have it, so it just causes delays later on. So make sure you answer every question, yes or no, or zeros. Again, the San Diego Mesa College school code, and student and one parent using the FSA ID to sign the FAFSA. The IRS data retrieval tool, it's going to be a window that pops up. So as long as your parents' name and social security number and address match what the IRS already has from their prior year tax return, it's going to offer this as an option. If you say yes to it, like I said, it's just going to fill it in directly from the IRS, so you won't make any mistakes, you won't read the wrong numbers, you won't enter the wrong numbers, and you won't delay it later on. Now it's going to start out saying you have to say no to it. So it's going to kind of come up and say, we're going to use this, and you'd have to say no in order not to use it, okay? Okay, so what makes a student independent versus a dependent status? These are the questions that are on the FAFSA already that determine the status. Has to be at least 24 years old by December 31st. So if you're coming here next fall, you'd have to be 24 by December 31st of this year. You could be married, have a legal dependent other than a spouse, which is usually a child. Active duty or veteran, both parents deceased, emancipated minor, or in legal guardianship. If you can say yes to one of these, you'd be independent. So it's not just the fact that I'm 20 or 21 or 22 years old, I haven't lived at home in 4 years, I've been on my own. You're still going to be a dependent as defined by the Department of Ed, and you're still going to need to put your parents' information in, okay? If there's any changes in the financial aid status, starting this year, the 2017-18, you're going to be entering all of this information from 2015. So it's going to be 2 years prior. Some things can change in 2 years. Your parents or you could get a job, your parents could lose a job, divorce, separation. There's a lot of different things that could happen, that could have happened in the last 2 years, that could change your whole situation. You will need to fill out the FAFSA the way it is and the way it was, and then you would have to come to the financial aid office after that to find out if there's a way that you could appeal to have these factors or special circumstances considered to hopefully maybe increase your financial aid eligibility. But you have to fill it out the way it was in 2015. There's a couple things that you need to remain eligible for financial aid. This is a federal regulation. This is called Satisfactory academic progress. This is the same across the country, no matter if you're going to a community college, a four-year college. To maintain financial aid eligibility, you have to maintain a cumulative GPA of 2.0. So if you start out your first semester and don't do so well and it's below a 2.0, you'll have to appeal the following year. If you get all A's, it doesn't go by semester. It's going to combine that, everything with the first semester and so on until, you can get your GPA above 2.0. You have to pass at least 2/3 of the units attempted, which is 67%, and it's units, not classes. So some classes, like a Phi-Ed class, is only worth 1 unit. Maybe a math class is worth 5 units. So it's units, not classes. F's, W's, incompletes, no pass grades count against the ratio. So you want to make sure you're completing classes. If you think you're going to withdraw from a class or you think you need to, talk to the financial aid office first to see how it's going to impact your future financial aid eligibility, okay? And then there's the maximum time frame component. You're eligible for up to 150% of the published length of time of a program. At a community college like Mesa, it takes 2 years or 60 units to get an associate's degree. So you have 3 years or 90 units worth of eligibility. This is important for students who start out in one program and after a year, maybe they decide that it's not for them and they want to change their program. It allows a little extra time to do that maybe once, okay? As long as you're not taking too many classes at the beginning of your college education towards that specific degree. So maybe you're taking more general education that can transfer to the other program, but you're only going to be eligible for up to 90 units. Okay? There are some special circumstances that if you fail to meet these standards, there is an appeal process that goes to the committee to determine if what happened that made you, below these standards, to see if that can be taken into consideration and make you eligible again for that year. Okay? But the most important thing is doing well to start with. Okay, there is a federal privacy law called FERPA. So even if you are 18 years old and just out of school and your parents are paying for everything, you still need to fill out a form to authorize the financial aid office to release the information to anybody else. Okay, your parents may call and say, hey, I'm paying for everything. This is my student who's only 18 years old. It's like, the student's an adult now. Everything has to be authorized by the student. By doing that, you have to come into the office and fill out the authorization form in front of a financial aid counselor with whoever you want to have access to your information. So just kind of recap a little bit of what to do and when. Again, scholarships are always available to search for on your own. You're going to apply for them as early as you can, as often as you can. Again, we do have a resource in the 4th floor of the Student Services Building, the Student Affairs Office. The FAFSA is available to fill out every year by October 1st of the prior year. So the year for the FAFSA for the 17-18 school year has been available since October 1st. Starting this year, they're going back 2 years. So they're going back to 2015 for, like I was explaining earlier, going back to 2015. They did that so that more people have the opportunity of having their taxes filled out by the March 2nd priority deadline. When they made the FAFSA available January 1st, You can't file taxes until, you get your W-2s, which is usually at the end of January, and we have the March 2nd deadline, priority deadline. That was a really short window of time. So now they've extended it back to October 1st. When you fill out your FAFSA, you're gonna get a confirmation email from them saying that everything was submitted successfully. That just means that your parents' names and your name and social security numbers and everything matched. And then you're gonna get the student aid report called a SAR, which is available. You're gonna get it in the mail, and it's also gonna be available on the FAFSA website. And that's just for you to review to make sure that everything was correct that you entered on there, as far as names and income, okay, things like that. You're gonna wanna make sure you check that for accuracy. If the Department of Education determines that they want the school to verify any of the information on your FAFSA, it's called being selected for verification. That information would go to all schools that you put on your FAFSA, and then we would let you know what we need, where to find the correct documentation and paperwork that we need. So if we let you know we need something, the sooner you get it in, the quicker we can process your financial aid, okay? So here's a picture of our building. I don't know if anybody's been down on the first floor yet and seen this. It's a big gold building down there. We're right inside that door on the first floor.